It started with prayers to the Lord. It started with a feeling of we're going to do this together.
The spirit of Ricks is not only feeling the Holy Ghost on campus, but honoring the pioneer heritage.
The history of BYU-Idaho with the spirit of Ricks pretty much go hand in hand. You have to understand that that rich history is something that we are also a part of by being here.
Brigham Young University-Idaho is a place of constant change and innovation. Yet amid the continual progress, there are special defining characteristics that remain unchanged. BYU-Idaho enjoys a legacy of integrity, hard work, selflessness, humility, and a commitment to learning and to teaching by faith. This legacy, known as the Spirit of Ricks, has its foundations in the late 19th century as Latter-day Saint pioneers entered Idaho's upper Snake River Valley. In 1883, church president John Taylor called Thomas E. Ricks as a bishop, with a charge to establish the community that became Rexburg. A year later, Bishop Ricks was called as president of the newly formed Bannock Stake. In June of 1888, the first presidency asked each stake to establish schools where members of the church could educate their children. President Ricks accepted the assignment and led the effort to establish the Bannock Stake Academy, which opened its doors on November 12, 1888. The first principal was Jacob Spory, a well-educated man from Switzerland who spoke 13 languages and had an enduring passion for learning. On that cold, clear opening day in November, President Spory was called upon to speak. He offered an inspiring glimpse into the future when he said, "The seeds we are planting today will grow and become mighty oaks, and their branches will run all over the earth." 59 students enrolled that first term. They were earnest and diligent in their work and studied subjects ranging from religion to arithmetic and spelling. The first few years were financially trying for the Frontier Academy. Jacob Spory worked tirelessly, took personal pay cuts, and at times paid the other teachers from his own pocket. In 1890, Principal Spory taught all the students himself while the other school teacher was out sick. Jacob Spory set a pattern of selflessness and dedication, which has continued with each new leader of the school. After a decade as an elementary school, Principal Douglas M. Todd instituted high school courses and a teacher education program. Because of stake boundary changes as the surrounding area grew, the Bannock Stake Academy became Fremont Stake Academy, then Smith Academy. Finally, in 1902, the first presidency suggested the name be changed to Ricks Academy to honor President Thomas E. Ricks, who had passed away the year before. The local Board of Education agreed and made the change. A spirit of optimism prevailed as the academy grew. By 1906, enrollment had reached 400 students, and a new building had been dedicated, which would later be called the Jacob Spory Building. In 1915, authorization was given for a new gymnasium building. In 1930, as the Great Depression swept over America, the saints in the West suffered greatly. The church struggled to maintain its many academies, and some feared that Ricks College would be forced to close. In an effort to keep it open, The church offered the school to the state of Idaho for $1. State senators debated the issue, but the offer was declined because of Idaho's own financial difficulties. President Hiram Manwaring received word that Ricks was to continue as a church school. By 1940, enrollment was back up to 330 students. Just over 10 years later, enrollment had tripled and a new auditorium was announced. 1961 marked the beginning of a period of unprecedented growth at Ricks College. From 1961 to 1973, 15 buildings were built or announced on campus, and the latest technologies were introduced. As time passed, many more qualified students applied than could be served. Concern for these youth led a prophet of the Lord to ponder and seek inspiration. As a result, in June of 2000, President Gordon B. Hinckley announced that Ricks College would become Brigham Young University-Idaho. Just as faithful individuals had heeded a prophet's call to establish Bannock Academy, President David A. Bednar led employees and students through the transition from a 2-year junior college to a 4-year university. Since the transition was announced, new buildings have been constructed, and nearly every other building has been renovated. Innovative academic programs have been introduced, including a 3-track, 3-semester system that allows the university to bless a greater number of students. No corner of campus has been untouched by the transition, and yet the same core values of consecration, humility, and love remain. Today, students come to BYU-Idaho from around the world, not just for an education, but for an experience that builds character and promotes faith. The desire to bless students in this way comes from our legacy of hard work, integrity and excellence, continual innovation, and above all, faith in Jesus Christ. From a frontier academy to a now thriving university, the spirit of Ricks has and will continue to define BYU-Idaho.
It's almost inescapable. It's hard for anybody who walks across this campus, whether they're a member of the church or not, or whether they're an employee here or not, that they don't notice that there is something special here.
I think about the influence that Ricks College and BYU-Idaho has had on my life and on my family, and I think about it, what a blessing it's been for me in my life to be able to work here.